Hi everyone, it's Shelley, and today I'm going to be doing a sort of 6-month book review for 2025. I've been doing individual book reviews over the last few months and I'm finding it's a tiny bit unsustainable. I'm not vlogging them, I'm just doing individual reviews for each book. Probably will still do that, but today I want to try something a little bit different for me. So I've got a pile of books here, pretty much everything I've read since the start of 2025, all the way up to about June, July-ish of this year, with the intention that it makes it a little bit easier and I can run through more books rather than just running through one at a time. So without further ado, I want to get started. Well, hi, this is Shelley, present Shelley, or my future Shelley. We haven't quite decided yet. So what you might have just seen was a tiny clip of me filming in July. Ironically, at the end of this video, I actually do say that how editing is a pain. It is what it is. So I recorded the first half of this video in July, reading books from January to July and talking about all those books. I had all the best intention to get it edited and posted in August. We're currently in December, so we can see how well that turned out. So what I decided to do, instead of wasting the footage, I'll put them all together into a big, massive video, hopefully not too long, but essentially a video of all of the 2025 reads that I've done this year. I do have a couple of books that I haven't quite finished, but we'll go into that nearer the end. But essentially, we're going to be watching what was a video in July, so apologies for the different setup and the different lighting, because clearly 2 different months, very dark in December. So the next clip is going to be me from in July doing the January to July book reviews, and then you'll come back to me at the end and we will then go over the August to December reviews. So if you happen to stick around, thank you. Please enjoy the first half from July and I'll see you on the other side. So my first book is The Summer Hikaru Died. This is a manga. I picked this up just on a recommendation and thought I'd have a little bit of a sort of a go. I've only got the first one, I've only read the first one, but I really enjoyed it. It was really, really good. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. I read it in about January time. So this story follows 2 school friends, Yoshiki and Hikaru. And Hikaru goes into a forest one day and comes back out, but his friend isn't convinced it's him. There's like something that's kind of replaced him. It's kind of got like sort of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of vibe. So yeah, definitely going to be reading a bit more of this. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to see kind of like how the story's going to unfold as to what that looks like. Didn't quite understand where it was going initially. I didn't quite expect some things to be revealed so soon, but really, really enjoyed it, and I'm going to get the rest of them. I need to get the rest of them. So next up we have Bunny by Mona Awad. Wasn't sure what to make of this. A lot of people have liked this. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard people it's like their favourite book of the year. It's been their favourite book of all time, that kind of thing. And I wasn't entirely sure what to make of it as such. I did read it. I wasn't too sure to start with. It was a little bit of a trying to get round, you know, it's very sort of Heather's partially mean girly sounding, but there's lots to it. There's lots more layers to it. So Bunny is about Samantha, who is at college. She meets 4 or 5 girls, so they call themselves the Bunnies, and they have this little clique where they kind of interact with each other. They keep calling each other Bunny, and it's kind of her experiencing part of that, finding out more about what that is and what that looks like, getting to know these other women as they are in their little bunny clique. I do follow a couple of book reviewers where they've done like deep dives into this, and now that I've listened to their thoughts, it's actually easier to understand, which sounds a bit mad. I totally would recommend this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those books that got you sort of second guessing as to what was really going on. This is quite a surreal story. It's quite difficult to sort of explain without giving away too many spoilery kind of things, but definitely do recommend it. It was really, really good. It is a little bit of a weird read. You have to kind of keep going to kind of go through the story to kind of get sort of what reveals, but yes, I definitely enjoyed this one. So for my next book, it is The 6 Deaths of a Saint by Alex E. Harrow. I'll have the image up here somewhere. It was on my Kindle, this one. This was just like a really little short story. I got it sort of Amazon sort of Prime reading, kind of free reading, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Totally didn't see what was coming, considering. So it kind of follows the story of a knight, a woman, like you sort of see her grow up like from a child right up until she's selected to be a knight for this king, and it spirals into her growing up and her working for the king and grow his kingdom. Very interesting, very unusual. Didn't really expect the sort of slight twist at the end. Yeah, it was very, very good. So I do plan to read a little bit more from this author. I do have Once and Future Witches, and I have been meaning meaning to read it for a while, so I definitely will pick that up now that I've read this. So my next book of 2025 is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. So the basic story on this, to not give away too many spoilers, is essentially Violet Sorrentale, who is at a college. They have dragons, they ride dragons, and she has to learn to be sort of more of a warrior as opposed to a scribe, as what she originally was supposed to be. So she meets Xaden and his dragon, and she meets lots of different friends at the college and their dragons. This development over the breaking down of some of their traditions, some of their magic systems, certain villains and monsters are kind of coming out of nowhere. It's a very interesting read. It's definitely very action-packed and there's lots of stuff going on. I've obviously read the first 2 books, thoroughly enjoyed this one. There was definitely more exploring in this one. They got to see a few more areas outside of the school location, which was quite good. I'm always here for the dragon banter. I've thoroughly enjoyed the dragon banter. Sometimes the relationship stuff can be a little bit, it is kind of like constant and it's a back and forward. It's fine, it's all right, it's good. I did enjoy it. I'm not trying to sort of slate the book or anything, but I'm here for the dragon banter. But yes, it was very good. You get to the characters go off into the wilds, try to find out more information about what's going on with dragons and this situation. I'm not going to go more into it because third of however many it might be. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this, really liked it, and will definitely continue with the series. So the next book for 2025 is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This book is about a serial killer and Michelle's investigation into who the serial killer could be. You may have seen a documentary about this. I saw the documentary before I read the book. In the documentary, they do actually solve it. They find who it is, and I will dig out this documentary eventually and watch it again because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did want to read the book. I bought the book before watching the documentary, watched the documentary and then found out what was going on, which is fine, but I have since read the book. But it was really interesting, and the amount of work that Michelle did and all the background stuff that Michelle did to try and develop and find out the connections between all the different killings in the area and try to work out who did what. It was absolutely fascinating. It was so good. Unfortunately, Michelle did pass away before this was solved, so she didn't actually get to see it solved. I don't even think she finished her book, actually. I think the other authors supported in finishing her book, but it is a really good read. If you do get a chance to see the documentary, worth a watch as well as reading the book. They both go in tandem, but it's well worth it. Very good book. So the next books of 2025 are Solo Leveling, volumes 1 and 2. I'm doing these together simply because I read them back to back and it's obviously part of the same storyline. So we're following the character of Jinwoo, who is a part of a group of people who are hunters. So in this world, demons are coming through portals and they open up, and if they don't get closed quite quickly, demons can infest the human world. So they send in hunters at different levels, and each of them go, like different groups go in depending on the severity or level of that portal, and they'll go in and destroy the monsters and get rid of them and then seal up the portal and it's all finished. I read the first one of these, absolutely loved it, so I've got the next 2. I do have the 4th one to still read as well. In these couple of episodes, you're kind of developing into the character. The first one, kind of, you get to experience one of the dungeons or the portals and have, like, you know, whatever they're fighting there. Then this one is kind of where Jinwoo is a very low ranking hunter, and it's not often that people can progress, but he finds a way to do it, and it's interesting to see how he develops from the first book up until this point. So I'm definitely going to keep reading. I think there's about 12-ish volumes. It's still ongoing. If you like gaming, this is so good. These are really enjoyable. I kind of devour these. I'm trying really hard not to buy these and then just consume them in one day. I'm trying to pace myself because I would just completely consume them and I can't afford to keep buying them all. So this is also an anime on Crunchyroll. I'm trying to read the manhwa first before I get too far into the episodes, but I think season 1 kind of ends between book 3 and 4 based on from what I've seen. I haven't quite finished them all, but this is really good. Would highly recommend. 5 stars to both of these. It was so good. The next book for 2025 is Monstrous Volume 8. This is Monstrous Volume 8. I've been reading these for a long time. I thoroughly enjoy these. The artwork is absolutely stunning. I find these so fascinating. I have got to the point where I have to skim read the previous one before I read the next one because I can't seem to keep, there's so much information here. Essentially, we follow Micah, a half human, half wolf person, and this monster Zin, who seems to be attached to her. There's lots of other characters, there's lots of things going on. This is obviously volume 8. I'm not going to tell you too much about what's in here because lots have happened since then, but I love these. I get the volumed version. I think you can get the single ones. This is the volumed version, and then you've got the omnibus versions, which I think are the bigger books, but I started collecting these, so this is kind of where I'm sitting with mine. This one is sort of explores more about Zin's background background, which is quite good because up to this point we've got a bit of Micah, we've got a bit of what's going on, why the world is the way it is, the hostility, the not necessarily government, but who rules what and who's kind of in charge of things and who's doing what things. It's all to do with archaeology and ancient relics as well. That's all involved as well. But this is quite good because it gives you a bit of backstory about what Zin is, his world, others like him, which is quite good considering we're now at volume 8. Next book is True Crime Story by Joseph Knox. I did read this very quickly, wasn't expecting that, kind of devoured it really fast, which was good. This is kind of set in interviews. It's basically a person's gone missing and it's all the interviews of other people who knew her before she went missing and, like, you know, who last saw her, what was kind of going on, a sort of a investigative journalist angle. I really, really liked this. I had the audiobook, made it much easier to go faster on double speed. Wasn't 100% sure about the ending, I don't recall. I didn't see it coming, but I kind of didn't realise. I think there was a bit more to it where I remember thinking maybe there was something else that could have got on with that one, but never mind. I think I just found the ending a little bit too convenient. It didn't feel like as much of a resolution as I wanted, but never mind. It is what it is, but it was really a good read. It was very fast paced. I totally enjoyed it and it was very, very good. So yes, would highly recommend. So for my next book, I've got The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I didn't know what to make of this. So I bought this edition. Obviously it's a stunning edition. Do like these editions. Bought this sort of on a whim. It's so much darker. It's really dark compared to what we're used to seeing. So it's not quite the Judy Garland lovely film. There's so many dark bits in this. It just took me by surprise. So if you don't already know, this book follows Dorothy as she navigates around the world of Oz. She meets some companions, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, and various other characters like the Good Witch of the North and the Wicked Witch of the West. Works her way up to the Emerald City where she gets to see the Wizard of Oz and try to work out how to get home to Kansas. So some areas were more explained, there was more information, certainly about the character background. I mean, how the Tin Man became the Tin Man. I'm sorry, what? This is a children's book. If you know, you know. I mean, should you have had that axe? Should you have been allowed to have that axe? Seriously. Obviously, for the purposes of a wholesome family film, some bits were taken out, some bits were left in. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't put off by it, but it wasn't like the glowing review I wanted it to have. But yeah, very interesting read. I'm pleased I read it because obviously it is a classic. It's one of those ones where it's like you've got to check it off your list. So yeah, pleased I read it. Did enjoy it. Enjoyed the extra detail, but not so much this extra darker bit. Not sure how this is a child's book. I mean, if you have children, you want to read this, I would maybe do it supervised, because it may need a lot of explanation. But yeah, did enjoy it and gave it 3 stars. So next book of 2025 is A Curious Beginning by Deanna Rayborn, which is part of the Veronica Speedwell series. I decided to pick it up and I really liked it. I mean, I really, really liked it. I didn't think I would. So in A Curious Beginning, you follow Veronica Speedwell after 2 of her aunts pass away and her adventure trying to find where she wants to go in life. This is set in like Victorian England where women really wouldn't have sort of jobs or lots of roles. They would sort of be expected to sort of marry and settle and have children. But Veronica likes to study butterflies. The name of what that is, I'll put on screen because I can't remember what it is. But she loves to study butterflies, and in the attempt to go off and have her own adventure, she comes across a gentleman who escorts her to London, and he seems to know a lot about her. She doesn't know much about her parents. She lived with these 2 aunts and has no sort of understanding or knowledge of her previous identity. She gets herself to London, is left to be with Stoker, and in amongst all of that, the companion who brought her to London is murdered, and then they go on this sort of journey to try and find out who murdered him and why. And it's a really interesting story. You kind of follow on part of Stoker's backstory a little bit and you get to know a little bit more about her. It is meant to be set in Victorian England, so there are some parts of it where it's, you know, some customs, not customs, you know. And it's also through the age of where Victorians were sort of building museums and finding artefacts, trying to bring things back as novelty items, and lots of other things are sort of talked about, like exhibits and other things. So this book took me a tad longer to read than I wanted it to. I think I kind of sped through it the first 2/3, and then the last third was one of those ones where I kind of left it and didn't get back to it because I was reading either something else, so I was in the midst of trying not to go into a slump. Not sure what was going on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. I loved the banter between Veronica and Stoker. It was quite good. Wasn't 100% sure about the ending. Not sure if it's just because I've seen it before, because I'm British, or what. I didn't dislike the ending, really did like it. I thought the twist was really good. I thought it was definitely an interesting twist to stick in there. It's just, I think I've seen that kind of ending trope, if you want to call it that, before. And I think that kind of, I sort of stepped back a little bit and I was kind of like, okay, interesting. Thoroughly enjoyed the story. Definitely want to read the rest of them. I've currently only got the first one on my Kindle. Still trying to work out how to buy the sets, because I can't bring myself to buy a set where the first 3 are different on paperback or the first 1 is different in hardback. If you know, you know. I am going to buy them eventually. I just haven't quite worked out how. If anybody does know where I can get them from, and I can guarantee that the paperbacks are going to be floppy and all the same set, that would be amazing. Please leave a comment down below. I thoroughly enjoyed the first book in the series so far. Definitely going to read more. Again, it's another one where I want to pace myself. I don't want to be devouring every single book in the series as much as I did enjoy them. I want to try and pace myself to see if I can kind of like make it last as long as possible. And I gave this one a 4.5 star. I enjoyed it that much. It was so good. The next book is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is the special edition one that you can get. It's a stunning book. So this book is about a girl named Pip who's investigating the murder of a girl from her school. The girl's boyfriend at the time was suspected to have done it. Then he is found dead not long after. No spoilers, this is pretty much the blurb. But essentially she then, as part of a school project, that investigates whether or not the boyfriend was really the culprit or whether it was somebody else, because she never really believed that he could have done it. And she's kind of doing that alongside the boyfriend's brother. So it's a very interesting read. It's really good, very sort of full of mystery, but it's interesting how, like, obviously she's part of her project, she's interviewing people, she's trying to find more information, very investigative journalism from sort of a teen trying to do a school project in the hopes of solving the murder. I've been meaning to read this for ages. I've had people tell me I need to read it, constantly tell me I need to read this book. So eventually did. And I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did start it originally and got like to chapter 4 and then had to put it down. Clearly wasn't ready or in the mood for it. And I think I was in the midst of a horrendous slump at the time. So I had the audiobook. I thought, well, I'll get another set and it'll be fine. When I pushed past chapter 4, eventually got past it, thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, did not see some of this coming. I did like some of the characters. I like the developments. There was lots of stuff that I did not see coming. And that's kind of one of the things I do really like about these books is, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I do not see a lot of the endings coming. Really enjoyed this. The mystery was quite good. It kept you on, not necessarily kept you on your toes, but it kept you thinking, kept you interested, kept you going. It wasn't revealed too soon. You weren't like handed everything all the time, I don't think. It just felt like it was kind of coming at a reasonable pace. I do have the rest of the books by Holly Jackson. I will be reading more of these and continuing on, but it was a very good read and really liked it. So I'd highly recommend. So, and I gave this one a 4.5 stars. So another book of 2025 is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, I finally got to this box set. People have been raving at me to read this for years. I finally got the hardbacks and I do have them ready to read the rest. Again, another series I don't want to binge because as much as I enjoyed it, I don't want to be oversaturated with the information here. I want to sort of pace myself and enjoy it, and rather than feeling I have to blaze through a whole box set. Gave it 4.5 stars. So this follows Feyre as she's taken to a fairy realm, but she kind of explores the area. She gets to know other people who are there. There's people who look after the palace. I think it's a palace. And also exploring sort of the different rules and customs that come with this fairy realm, if you will. Very interesting read. Really enjoyed it. Genuinely didn't know whether I would or wouldn't. I have read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I've read a couple in that series, and I kind of really thought, well, actually I do like her writing, so I didn't think it would be too much of an issue, but I wasn't 100% sure. I mean, I don't know about fae. I don't often read fae stuff. I really enjoyed this, and it was very good. I am looking forward to going through the rest of the books. Again, I've got lots of people saying I need to get through the rest of the series. It's so good. I would definitely recommend this book if anybody enjoys Sarah J. Maas and hasn't got to it, or if you like sort of fae and angsty people. It is good. It is good. Once you get into it, it's very good. Next up is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. We follow Thomas and Andrew as they're returning to school after a summer. Thomas is sort of the friend who, he seems to do more writing, and Andrew does a lot of drawing and does lots of sketches. In amongst all of this and going back to school and sort of navigating all that, some of the drawings start coming to life. So there's a lot of sort of monster, creepy vibes and lots of kind of descriptions of monsters. It's very good. Very eerie, very spooky. But yeah, very good. It's interesting the dynamic between the two of them, and certainly as the story develops as to what's going on. Certainly didn't see the twist on this one either. I did not see it coming. And a lot of the book review groups we were in and the book clubs, people kind of had picked it up early. It wasn't until I watched somebody doing a review on this, I didn't see it coming. There's layers to this. It's so good. It is really good. I would highly recommend this if you like sort of that kind of vibe. But yeah, definitely worth a read. So another favourite of 2025 is Strange Pictures by Uketsu. This is everywhere. I've never picked a book faster and read it as fast. So I happened to be going out with a friend. We'd gone to Waterstones and just picked this up. And we then went for a picnic for the afternoon. It was quite nice. And I read the first, I think, chapter and a half of this. Devoured. It's not even, it's just yes. If you're not sure, yes, please pick it up. So this follows different characters. There are 4 different sections to this. You have your introduction chapter and then you have 4 different chapters. And each of those chapters follows a different scenario, different storyline. And each of them has a discussion about some form of picture and how that picture relates to the actual chapter. But then also the whole chapter relates to a segment of other things. So it's a storyline told in different scenarios, different settings with different people, different stories, but it is all linked and you can then find out how it's linked at the very end. Really, really, really good. 5 stars. I think anything by Uketsu I would probably just read. It's so, so good. Highly recommend it. Another book for 2025 is Evil Under the Sun by Agatha Christie. So this is a Poirot adventure. This was part of a Patreon book club. If anybody follows Gavin Reads It All on Patreon, he does these events where he kind of reads an Agatha Christie mystery and tries to solve it. This was the most recent one that was done. So as you can tell, my edition is ancient. That's rude. I shouldn't say that because it was only printed in the 1960s. Sorry if you are watching and you were born in the 60s. So I found this in a book village in the UK where you can go. Here's on why if anybody's been. But it was like an old cinema turned into a bookshop and it was all like selling secondhand books. Evil Under the Sun is one of my favourite Agatha Christie films. If anybody's seen the 1982 version, I believe Maggie Smith is in it at some point. That's one of my favourite films. So I kind of knew what was coming, although the ending was slightly different in this. There was extra bits in the other film that didn't quite, unless it's my edition. So if anybody's seen the 1982 film or any of the films for Evil Under the Sun, I haven't seen the David Suchet version, which is a surprise because I've watched that many David Suchet versions of Poirot. You'd think I would have, but I have seen the new ones with Kenneth Branagh and that's very good as well. And it completely escapes me the guy who plays Poirot in the 1982 film. Shocking. Anyway, so this follows a group of people going off to an island for a holiday in this hotel. It's like just a little adventure sort of on this sort of remote island where this hotel is, and you meet all these different characters that are also staying at the hotel. Poirot's obviously there. He's supposed to be on holiday and then has to solve a murder mystery because one of the guests is murdered. Very, very good. I'll say any more just because obviously spoilers. I have to say I prefer Poirot over Marple. If anybody ever listens to any of the audiobooks for these and is familiar with the ITV series that David Suchet plays Poirot in, the gentleman who plays Hastings often narrates them. So if you are keen of getting audiobooks in the UK, I don't know if it happens to be everywhere, but the Audible ones in the UK do have him narrating some of them. Even David Suchet does a few of them as well. If you do want any of those, that's quite good. This one I didn't have an audiobook for. I mean, it wasn't really much to go on, but I think it's just because it was sort of an older edition and I wasn't 100% convinced I would get an accurate audiobook for this one. Thoroughly enjoyed this, really, really liked it. One of my favourite Poirots. Probably would give it like 4.5 stars, 4 stars. It's different to the film in the way that the film seems to clarify things a bit more, whereas this has to give you a little bit more information written wise. The dynamic between a few characters was slightly different. I actually had to go and have a look at the casting of the 1982 film to try and work out which characters were who, because I couldn't get all the names right in my head. It was a really good read, so would highly recommend picking this one up. And the next book for 2025 is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This was a recommendation from a book reviewer. It's a romance, cowboy romance. So a woman is assigned to a bull rider. Is it rodeo? Never mind. There's a gentleman who rides bulls for a living and his agency send a woman to monitor him because he keeps saying things and doing things to get himself into trouble. And to try and prevent him from getting into any further trouble, they send an assistant to keep him from sort of lashing out, saying daft things on TV. I wasn't sure if I was going to like this. I'm not very good with romance. I'm really not. I find sometimes romance could be a bit it's a bit hard work and sometimes it's a little bit far-fetched, a little bit over the top. I liked this. I really did enjoy it. I think I gave it about 4 stars when I read it. The banter between the characters is really good. I was expecting it to be all over the top angsty, and I think it's maybe because I'm being exposed to too much romantasy recently, but I wasn't sure. And yet I enjoyed it. Rhett is a bit of a pain, but he's fine. Tries to be macho man, but yeah. And Summer's quite an interesting character. They both have their own problems, or their own insecurities, if you want to call it that, and their own issues that they're trying to resolve. There is some spice, if people like spice, but I didn't find it was too over the top. It was, I mean, it's not normal. It's not normal, but it's normal level of spice. I think that's how I would describe it. For me personally, I didn't think this was too bad. I've read worse, put it that way. I've read worse. I've read spicier and thought, my God. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Did like the characters, did like the banter, like the family dynamic. There was a family discussion. The rest of these follow his brothers, and I think there's 2 brothers, a prodigy of bull riding and a hockey person, I think. Anyway, I do have them all. They're literally just here. I really did enjoy this. Surprised me in terms of the romance. I did not see that. Like, I didn't expect myself to like it, and I did. So yes, I'm pleased for the recommendation. Definitely enjoyed it. Would definitely recommend them. I think I would have to take these as each book at a time. I have heard that some books are better than others. Some people say the next book is much better, and then the one after that's maybe not so much. It's kind of the impression I'm getting, but pinch of salt, but I'll take it as they go, and I'll just be reading them again. I won't binge them because I don't want to burn myself out and start getting bored, because that's unfortunately how my slump works. But yeah, I'll be reading through the rest of these, plowing through them and just getting to them as and when I get to them. So that is all the books so far of 2025 that I have read. I do intend to do the next half of this sort of later in the year, and then I'll sort of cut off from here and do the rest of the books that I read the rest of the year. Do you prefer this kind of format? Do you prefer the singular book reviews that I've been doing? Like I say, don't know how sustainable it is. That was a lot of books, and doing an individual review for each of those books was going to take me an age, and I don't know about anybody else who's on YouTube who do these things. Editing is a pain. I do enjoy it, but it is a pain. I'm going to do this later in the year. I'm quite pleased with the number of books that I've read this year, because usually it takes me a bit longer to read some books. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. So the next book I've got is Strange Houses, and this got missed off from my January to July reads. I'm not entirely sure how or why. I would assume that I'd read that by then, but apparently not. So this is from Uketsu. It's similar to the book Strange Pictures, and it's essentially floor plans of different houses. You follow a timeline, a storyline of a couple of different people, different families, and you're linking it all via floor plans or a couple of different houses and how some houses were built, what they were used for. It's very, very good. If you like sort of mystery, thrillery kind of type books and you want a different format, this is really good. Picked this up with a friend. We pretty much went into Waterstones, bought it together, and sat and read pretty much half of it by the time we got done in an afternoon, and just trying to work out whether or not we could sort of suss out the same sort of things. But essentially, yeah, you follow a couple of different people, different families, and you're looking at different floor plans for different houses throughout the years and why certain houses have certain rooms and what that entails. So if you're looking for a very quick read of a thriller, I would highly recommend these. They are very digestible. They are very good to go through. You do kind of have to follow the story, and sometimes you do have to link everything up, but you know, once you get to the end of it, it kind of does go through what that looks like. I don't want to give too much away, because once you start, you kind of get spoiled for things, so I'll not give too much away. This does come in a manga format. I haven't read the manga. I quite enjoyed this version, but if you do want like sort of the visuals of what's going on as well, this does come in a manga format if you would like to read that, but would highly recommend these books if you ever want to pick them up. So the next book I read was Confessions by Kane Minato. This one I kind of been eyeing up for a long time. I was reading it on my Kindle, and this has been on my list for a long time. I wasn't 100% sure if I should or shouldn't, and then I read it and I wish I hadn't sat on it in so long. It was really good. It's essentially about a woman who is a teacher, and her young daughter dies at the school she works at. She pretty much tells her class that she knows who did it, and her class are like, I think they're like middle school kind of age, like sort of 10-ish age. Forgive, I'm not too sure about the Japanese school system, but they are quite young children. And then you follow it from 4 different perspectives of the people who are involved, including her and some of the children from the class. It is very sort of twisty turny. You kind of get overlap of timelines, things like that. Not 100% sure on how she took her revenge, the choice of revenge she took. If you've read it, you'll know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to say too much, obviously, for spoilers. I could understand why. It just seemed a tad dark, but that's probably the point. I did enjoy it. I did read through it, and I pretty much like read it within like a day or two while I was away. It was very, very good. Very thrillery, sort of lots of layers. I mean, like I say, you get different perspectives of some of the children and her and other people involved, so you kind of get to have this different perspective all the time. But no, it was very good. And I've seen that she has another one called Penance, which I think I might have to have a look at, but I'll definitely say on that one. But would recommend Confessions. It was very good. So the next book is Mary by Nat Cassidy. I still think about this book. I really do. I'm not a one for horrors. I would class this as a horror. I don't read that very often, but I would class this as a horror. And I do often float back to thoughts of this book. It was quite dark. It was quite gruesome. It was quite ghostly. It was quite good. I did like it very, very much. This is about Mary, who has to travel to her hometown to look after an old aunt of hers that is living alone and needs assistance. She was in New York working in a bookshop. She just kind of had a nice quiet life, and then had to travel back home. It follows the story of what happened 50 years before in her hometown. So it's an overlapping storyline of murders that happened in her hometown and who committed them and that kind of thing. So as Mary is getting used to being back in her hometown, things start to happen. It kind of links in again with this murder from 50 years prior, and lots of other ghostly things and creepy things kind of start happening. There is a scene with a bathtub, which sounds really strange without the context, but I'm not going to say much more because I can't. But I then went on a trip somewhere and they had a bathtub a bit like the one in the I just couldn't get over it. Had me creeped out completely. So I was still thinking of this. I really enjoyed it. There's lots of underlying tones of women aging, what your kind of identity is, where you've come from versus where you end up, you know, going back to somewhere where you once were. Does that then impact how you feel about yourself? With obviously extra layers of serial killings and other things going on that are quite gruesome as well. So I quite enjoyed this. Like I say, I don't read many horrors. I haven't read from Nat Cassidy before either, so I really enjoyed this. I would probably pick up more from Nat Cassidy as well. Haven't quite yet. So yeah, I really did enjoy this. I would recommend this if anybody wants kind of like a creepy horror. I did really like it, considering, like I say, I don't read these very often. So if you want to try and pick this up, I would highly recommend it. It was very good. Thoroughly enjoyed. Did find it creepy, did find it weird, but in a good way that has just sat with me since. So my next book is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I read this on a trip away to a haunted castle. I live in the northeast of England. I went to a place called Chillingham Castle, which is supposed to be the most haunted castle in England, and I took a couple of books with me, and I thought it would be funny to read a creepy read in a creepy haunted castle. I did like this to a point, but as with all, to me, most older books, sometimes they don't finish. They just kind of leave it very open-ended, and that's one of the things I really can't stand. I don't mind ambiguous ending. I don't mind sort of having endings where you're kind of left slightly on a cliffhanger if you know there's another book coming, if that makes sense. But when they do books like this where they kind of just finish and there's not really much to the ending. The film The Haunting from the 90s is based on this, and I think there is a Netflix series called The Haunting of Hill House as well, which is sort of like a retelling but not quite an exact retelling of this story. I've seen the 90s film, and while it creeped me out as a young child, it doesn't quite hold, but the film's much creepier than this. Granted, I was creeped out by reading this in the middle of a haunted castle, but it wasn't as creepy as I thought it was going to be when I kind of sat and reflected on it a little bit afterwards. Some of the characters from this are used for like the films and the TV show and things like that, but they kind of slightly change maybe their dynamic. Obviously being exposed to the film first before the book has made it a little bit different, a little bit difficult for me to kind of get my head around a little bit. And I did like it, but there was a lot more creepy elements to the film, and there was extra bits. There's part of a film, I think there's a whole bit afterwards. There's a point where the book stops, but the film actually added extra bits on the end, and I appreciate why. It's for cinema and I totally get that, but it kind of made this a little bit lackluster. It got to a point where lots of things were happening, and then it kind of just felt like that was it. I did find it interesting. So this follows Eleanor as she goes to this big mansion in the countryside. She's invited there to take part in an experiment. I think it's something to do with sleep. That's how the film portrayed it, but I'm not sure about the book. Can't actually remember. But there is an experiment essentially, and people are all invited from random walks of life, and essentially they are all brought to the one location. Essentially chaos ensues, things happen, lots of ghostly happenings, things that can't be explained, and then obviously the characters that are then sort of left to try and fend for themselves in this mansion. Parts of it, like I say, did match up, and part of it made sense. There was a few bits that didn't quite make sense in terms of sort of overlapping with the background story and things like that. I think there was meant to be, they felt like there should have been a bit more, but obviously this is an older classic, so maybe there was that the whole ambiguity part of it was meant to be sort of like the thriller aspect. Not everything was explained, and therefore it left everybody open to interpretation. I did enjoy it. Like I say, I did read it in a spooky castle. Probably should have thought about that because the main character is called Eleanor. There is actually a ghost child called Eleanor at Chillingham Castle. Didn't really think that through because, you know, while I was sat reading happily in my apartment, that doesn't mean the ghosties can't come through. So when I was reading this about Eleanor and I knew there was a ghost Eleanor in the castle, it was a little bit creepy. I'm not gonna lie, I did creep myself out a little bit. When you watch some other YouTubers who read spooky books at spooky locations, I know you'll never see this, but I'm looking at Gavin Reads It All. I don't know how they do it because this wasn't as creepy as what some books could have been. So yeah, next time I'm taking something fluffy and romantic. Wouldn't necessarily read this again. I think I've had my fill of Shirley Jackson. If she's got, like, I know she's got other things that I could read, but I've read what I need to read, I think, from her. So if you like the spooky things, I would recommend. Not my favourite spooky book that I've read. Obviously, I have attachment to it because I've read it in a spooky castle, and it did make the atmosphere a little bit more creepy for me. My next book is The Ghost Woods by C.J. Cook. This was a blind book that I bought. It's an independent bookshop called Collect. It was taped up, it was all wrapped, it was lovely, it was a blind fine book. I bought this and then sort of kind of decided that I was going to open it and read it at a particular point. I took this with me because obviously Ghost Woods, previous Chillingham Castle comment, they do have a Ghost Woods. It's called the Monk's Wood and it's meant to be haunted by monks essentially. So again, another appropriate read to take with me to Chillingham Castle while I was there. However, slightly not sure on this one. I didn't mind the story entirely. However, there's some elements to this that would not have been something I would have picked up had I known that that was what it's going to be. Two young women who get pregnant out of wedlock and essentially are going off to a house outside of their hometowns to have their babies. You're following two different perspectives of two different characters. So you kind of get your main character who is in the 70s, I believe, and then the flashbacks are to the other character every now and again, and they all kind of intertwine as you go through and kind of link up sort of near to the end. I'm not a fan of pregnancy tropes, and that's no offence to anybody who does like to read them and that kind of thing. It's not my genre. Had I known this was about a mother and baby home and the woman going away to have her baby and it would have been all that, I probably wouldn't have picked this up. Like I say, I did like parts of it. I liked the mystery to it. There was this idea that there was weird plants and fungus kind of growing around. There was a story about the woods where there was this weird creature or spirit who was hanging around the woods that people kind of sometimes was seen, sometimes was not. The woman who ran the house, she was a bit suspicious. There were elements to the mystery that I quite liked. However, I had just read Don't Let the Forest In, and there was something else that I'd read which is kind of escaped my brain that involved creepy fungi and creepy plants. Tainted Cup, I think, has some elements of plantage. I felt like I'd read the magical plant trope a bit too much by this point, so didn't thoroughly dislike it, but certainly didn't enjoy it as much as I'd hoped I would. I know there's other books by CJ Cook that people like, and I have seen a few. I probably won't pick this author up again unless something really does grab me, kind of thing, in terms of the element of it. Like I say, this probably wouldn't have been my first choice of jumping into this author because, like I say, I'm not a big fan of the pregnancy part of it. It was a good book. It did have some mystery elements to it. It was spooky, it was dark. If you like this kind of thing, feel free to try it. So the next book I read was The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchison. I really like this. So I got this book on Amazon Prime, borrowing on Amazon Prime that you can do. Wanted to read it sort of on a whim, thought it wasn't going to be too long, and I really enjoyed it. It's about this girl who technically goes missing, and she finds herself in this location with lots of other girls with this man who's quite mysterious. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it will give things away, and I don't want to spoil it because it's probably best you go in with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever, because I went in with nothing. It is quite dark. I think there are trigger warnings for the book, but because I was on my Kindle, I didn't necessarily go find them as such. It is a sort of a mystery, murdery thriller kind of story. It's very much a thriller, talking about sort of all these girls, what kind of scenario they're in, how this mysterious man links to all of that. I found it really interesting. There's a couple of things near the end which were like, oh, little mini revelations that I didn't see coming. Like I say, it was quite dark. If you're interested or have seen, watched, like, enjoyed Criminal Minds, and you think of some of the more unhinged criminals that they put away, there's elements of that. It's got a very Criminal Mind element to it. So yeah, I would very much recommend this. If you love a thriller, this is really good. I didn't realise it was part of a series, and I'm not going to lie, I don't have any interest in reading any further. Not because I didn't enjoy it, but I hadn't committed to a series when I read it. In my head, it was just a one-off, single, standalone book. And then I realised that there were a couple of others that kind of link into it. I think by the time you get to the second and third, it doesn't quite link back to the same characters again. I might read the second one just to sort of say I've finished that particular arc, if you will. I haven't rushed to go get it. It does kind of end in such a way that you could sort of be satisfied that it's done. As I say, it's like a Criminal Minds episode. You kind of know things have kind of been finished, but there could be more to it. So the second book then goes into, I think, the aftermath of whatever this was. I'm not likely to finish the series. If I do, I would probably have to be really ready for it, I think. But I'm quite satisfied that after having read the book just on its own, I did like the story. I thought it was really, really good. Very much recommend these ones. It's very much a thriller. So if you like that kind of thing, yeah, I would definitely recommend looking at this one. My next read is Autopsy of a Fairytale by Nicole Scarano. Saw this on Instagram, and this was kind of like sold as a Beauty and the Beast retelling meets Criminal Minds. Can you tell Criminal Minds has kind of got a theme going on? I read this and I had a bit of a mixed feel about it. I liked it, but obviously it's one of those books where it's just starting up. You can't really you're not sort of delving straight into things because there's sort of things being set up initially for a bigger storyline. You can kind of tell. It is the first run of a series, so I can kind of understand why. I do want to carry on with this one, but I haven't quite decided when and if I will, when that is. So this follows the main character, Belle, who is a detective. She's moved to this quiet little town with a trusty dog, and she is essentially trying to escape whatever big city incident incident that she was part of. She's kind of coming to a quiet town to have a quiet life, and then stuff happens where it's no longer a quiet life. So there's lots of people from this village that, you know, she kind of knows, but people start getting murdered. Nobody really knows why. She's trying to investigate as to why. She's suspicious of a guy who's just moved into this big estate further down nearer the town, and she's very suspicious of him. He has all of the, you know, he looks like a criminal kind of scenario. Very dark. Some of the ways they have murdered the victims, it is very much a Criminal Minds element. It is very dark, very obscure, I think is probably the best way I can put it without giving too much away. Again, probably best going in with the idea of it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling meets Criminal Minds kind of element to it. I think each of the books in the series then go into different sort of fairy tales versus Criminal Minds setup. The way the victims are found and what's happened to them does have a very Criminal Minds undertone, you know, as I said for the last one, if you can think some of the darker ones. Yeah, I mean, they're all dark, but you know what I mean. I really like this. I did go into it with a whim. I'm quite satisfied what I read was enough, but I do know that there was a feeling of things being carried on into the rest of the series, and a lot of this was like world building, it was character introductions. I probably will continue on with this series. I might try one more just to see how I feel about it. I'm not going to push. If I decide that I'm not really a big fan of it, I'm not going to keep going with it. I did enjoy the first one for what it was. Definitely would recommend if you like that kind of thing. You might absolutely devour it, which is great, but I think I'll slowly take on the series as I go, but I won't sort of be rushing to go get the second book. If it comes about, I will. But I would recommend it. Definitely does have the Beauty and the Beast Criminal Minds elements to it, so being sold like that did kind of come across. It just needs more. I think it just feels like it needs a bit more, but like I say, it's a first in a series. It's probably just getting started, so we'll see how it goes. So my next one is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. I picked this up because I picked up If We Were Villains, and I really enjoyed it. And this one was just a very short read. I think it's about 200 pages. It was on my Kindle, and I just thought I'd try it. I did like it. I did audiobook this one as a tandem read. I did like it. Did like some of the characters. Did like some of the revelations in it. I did like some of the elements to it. Obviously, it wasn't as chunky as If We Were Villains and didn't have as much stuff in it, but it still was quite good. It did come back round again, and it did wrap up the story quite well. There were some bits I've totally forgotten chunks of it, but that might be just my brain at the minute. But I do remember enjoying it. It had something to do with rats. We'll not go into too much detail. It was quite creepy. It was quite weird. I just think for 200 pages, it was almost like a lot of stuff got crammed into 200 pages, but yet there wasn't enough for 200 pages, if that kind of makes any sort of sense. I think I wanted a little bit more just to wrap up a few things. It wasn't like that the story wasn't finished. But yeah, I did like it. It was creepy. It was weird. It had loads of different bits and it had lots of different characters. Just not really too sure how I felt about the whole thing. It's an interesting one. I would definitely pick it up if you want like just a short book and you like a little mini thriller. Definitely sort of filled in the gap between one book and another for me. So if you would like that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend. So my next book of 2025 is The Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I read this on my Kindle actually. I didn't read this in my physical copy. I don't know why. I had heard a lot of different things about this book. Some people have found it like absolutely loved it. Some people really didn't like it. Kind of a mixed bag. I think I did it audio as well, and I thought I'd have a try of it and see how I felt about it. I've had a couple of Dracula retellings. I've read Dracula, I've read Camilla. I did quite like this. It had elements of what I felt was Interview of a Vampire, more so the film as opposed to the book, because I haven't read the book. So our main character is saved by this mysterious man creature thing who seems to be a vampire. So this follows the main character after she's saved from the brink of death, and she's essentially brought back by this vampire, and she is sort of, it starts with her talking to the vampire, and it kind of goes into the story of how she came to be and how the scenario of the story kind of goes, who they meet along the way, who joins them along the way, and what their relationship and the dynamics of those relationships look like. I did enjoy it. I did find it difficult in some bits. Not to say it was so difficult that I couldn't read it. It was just bits where I was kind of like, oh really, do I have to have that bit in? It's this bit's taking a bit longer than I expected. Are we repeating this bit again? The dynamics of the relationship, the main vampire is quite controlling for obvious reasons. There's lots of elements to this. It's slightly toxic. I probably wouldn't rush to read anything like this again if I saw like sort of a similar sort of synopsis. S.T. Gibson, potentially I could read something else from this person. I did like the way it was written. I did like some of the descriptions and the way the world was set out. I can't decide whether I want to do anything with this author's backlist or not, or whether or not I just kind of accept this is it, and then if I find something further down the line I might try it. We'll see. So if you like vampire stories, if you like Dracula and you want to build on sort of the lore of Dracula, this was really good. It made it like, you know, it's a different take, a different look on how things might have been. And yeah, I did like this. Would maybe see about reading from the author again, but haven't quite decided. But yeah, would recommend if you do like sort of vampire stories and you would like to get more of them. So my next read of 2025 was Alchemized by Sen-Lin Yu. I picked this up because obviously this is everywhere. If you're not interested in hearing about this, and I can understand why, please feel free to skip ahead when I'm not holding this up anymore and I'm on to my next book. I might put a timestamp somewhere if I can work out how to do it. But if you don't want to hear anything, please feel free to skip. If you would like to hear, feel free to stick around and we'll talk about it. Okay, for those who are still around, I read this and I'm going to preface it with a few bits of information first because I appreciate obviously what this is and what this might mean to some people. So first off, I saw this all over Instagram. At least 95% of my book Instagram people I follow were enjoying this very much. And for whatever reason, I mean... to go from Graveyard Shift, which is like 200 pages, to like 1,090 pages is incredible. I don't usually buy things straight away and then read them because of the hype. I kind of buy them and I might wait. I might not actually read them. I might read them when the hype's all died down. But I got hooked on the idea of reading this and I did take this away. I did try to read it. I had to audiobook it as well at the time, tandem read. I couldn't do it just on its own. This is meant to be, from what I understand, this was once a fan fiction, a Draco and Hermione fan fiction, based in the world of Harry Potter, in the world where the Dark Wizards and the Dark Lord had won. That's kind of the idea. The original was called Manacled. I have not read it. I have no idea about it, so I have no context for it. I do appreciate that people might look at this and think Harry Potter fan fiction, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot barge pole, and that is totally fine. It would be a shame if their opportunity was taken away because of what it's associated with, but I totally understand why people might not want to, and that's also fine. When I first picked this up and read it, or started reading it, there's a couple of things in here that I don't like. I've maybe just said it in a few books back, where things I don't like in books. This has been written in such a way, for me personally, I didn't find that it was dark. Don't get me wrong, it was dark. So reading this, there are trigger warnings in the back. Feel free to find them. Make sure that you are, keeping yourself safe with this kind of thing. There are lots of things in here which obviously don't agree with, but somehow this was readable. It's not to say that you should be able to digest this kind of information, this kind of content without feeling something. It did get dark in places. For me personally, it didn't probably hit as hard as what it might do for some others, so I can't give any sort of comment on that. I can only comment on what I've experienced from what I've read. So what this is about is you follow this person called Helena, and she has memories of what has previously gone on. She's kind of been sort of kept in hiding for a while. She's been kept somewhere, and then she's kind of brought out of whatever comatose state she's in, and then it's kind of her story as to what's actually going on in the world at this moment. You get the first part of the book is about what's happening to her in the moment. You then go into part 2, which will give you the past perspective, and then you go back to part 3, which is going back into the right timeline so that you're kind of following on from there. She's essentially a captive and she's kind of working out what on earth's gone on. Her memories are a bit foggy. Couple of revelations in between, like, where certain thoughts came from, why certain memories are the way they are, and like what happened to her. In terms of liking this book, like I say, I did like part of the story. I like some of the dynamic of the characters. I have read worse books where the main characters have got a certain way of being with each other and certain banter. I found the main female character on occasion a little bit irritating, but I think it's the situation that she was in. I did find it interesting where it developed, where things kind of got revealed. There was lots of stuff that got revealed that I kind of, did not see coming, if I'm being honest. And for what I read and for my experience, I did like this book. So having finished this, I then decided to go look at reviews. I don't tend to read reviews prior to reading a book. I don't want spoilers. I don't want to have any opinion when I go in. I would rather just have my own thoughts and then I can reflect later. Having read a few reviews after having read this, certainly there was a couple where they were saying, it's written well to the point where some of the triggers and some of the trigger warnings and the darker topics are read and written in such a way that they don't seem to have as much impact. And I think what they're trying to say is that obviously this should hit you hard. It shouldn't be lessened by the way it's written. And I kind of get it because, like I say, I've got no experience of some of the trigger warnings in here. I do understand them. I know of them. I can understand all of the elements to them, but they may not have hit me the way it might have hit somebody else. So having read the reviews, I kind of get it, because the way it's written, it's there. It's just there. It's made out to be quite a bad thing, and it's made to be, you know, sort of dark and not great, but then we then segue into the friendships or the love interest or something else that's going on. It doesn't quite, it comes to the forefront when it needs to be at the forefront, but then, you know, there's other elements to it that maybe, you know, it just makes it like lesser than, which it shouldn't be. But at the same time, making it too dark would make this a bit of a heavier read. It wouldn't have, I think it's the balance between getting the darker elements of it, not making it so dark that it's unreadable, but at the same time, even just the subtle nods to some things, you know, it's sort of pockets of things that are discussed. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I've thought about this for weeks to try and make this make sense, to try and explain it in such a way how I feel about it, but I'm finding it hard. I liked the book. I liked the story. It was dark. I didn't find it as dark as what I think other people might find it. The trigger warnings are there. The writing on reflection may have made some of the darker elements a bit too easy to digest. Not to say that that was the intention, but it does then make you wonder how you would read something like this with some of the darker elements to it in the first place. I'm trying to say a lot without saying much. It's a hard one to discuss, I think. I like the sort of idea of what happens after a war and which side wins. What would happen if the darker side won? And that, I did like the exploration of what that looks like, but there are so many darker elements to it. It is war. It's death, destruction, it's war, it's fighting, it's what that looks like, how that impacts people. But then the interest of friendship and relationships kind of gets segued in, and it still has that element in there, but maybe doesn't have the impact it maybe should have on some of the darker elements, because the darker elements are almost diluted slightly. I didn't dislike it. This is probably one of the books that I thought were one of the better ones I've read this year, simply for the world building, simply for the extra stuff. It wasn't one that I was cringing to have to pick back up. I was picking it back up in chunks. It took me ages to read, and I was taking it back up in chunks, and I was reading it, and I wasn't sort of begrudgingly picking it back up and cringing at the idea of picking it back up and, you know, going, oh, do I have to just to finish it? But at the same time, I can completely understand that this might not be for everybody for various reasons. If it's not for its original context, or if it's for the context and the trigger warnings in the back of this and what it looks like, I wanted to give it an opportunity. I had an experience of this that maybe others might not. If you're into it, I would recommend it. It did read well for me. Like I say, if you're finding it difficult, don't force yourself. I would like to read more from this author. I would be interested to see what kind of things she would then produce now that this is out there and this is her debut and it's kind of done, what kind of things, and it's not like linked to any other fan fiction kind of thing. I'd be interested to see what she would produce when there's no connection to other things or, you know, previous works and that kind of thing. I would be interested. I certainly would read something else from her. It would be different. I would like to see what kind of comes out of that. So technically we're at the end of the books that I've read for 2025. We are currently in December. So I'm currently reading Dungeon Crawler Call by Matt Dinnerman. I'm still mixed feelings on this at the minute. You can kind of see where I'm up to with it. I'm going to read it, but I'm past halfway. I do like it. I'm just kind of not sure how I feel completely about it. So this is about Call and his cat Donut, who gets sort of dragged into something called the Dungeon Crawler world. It's like a game. It's broadcast across the universe, and essentially they've got to go and make it way down to different levels, you know, leveling up. It's like a game sort of element to it. So I am enjoying it. I don't know how I feel really about it at the minute, simply because, I mean, I kind of see what it's about. It's like a game show thing. I'm trying to remember what it's like. Has anybody seen the 90s X-Men, or even the newer 90s X-Men, where it was like there was a character who kidnapped the X-Men and put them in a video game? It's kind of like that, but this is to do with, like, you know, world domination and a couple of other things. I am liking it. I do like some of the characters. I like who have been introduced to. I think this is one of those books where it's starting off to develop the world and what's going on, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions that kind of adds to it as well. So yeah, I'm trying to decide how I feel about it at the minute. I am enjoying it. I want to keep going. We'll decide whether or not I'll carry on with the series, because it is, I think it's like, what is it, 8 or 9 books? It's a commitment, and they're getting thicker. They're getting bigger. As you can see, all the books are getting more huge. So yeah, this is one of the current reads I've got going on at the minute, so we'll see how that goes and whether I get to my goal for the end of the year. I've got another book that I'm currently reading, which is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This one I just kind of picked up in the midst of Dungeon Crawler Call, just to kind of give myself something else to read, and I'm quite liking this so far. I think I'm like on like 17% or something. I have heard good things about it, so I am curious to see what kind of comes about and what people think of it. So yeah, that's going to be my other book for the end of the year. What I've also got is what if I don't get finished by the end of the year book pile. I've got 4 days left of my Goodreads goals, and I don't know if I'm going to finish both Dungeon Crawler Carl or Bright Young Women in that time. So what normally happens is New Year's Eve, I'm sat there trying to read loads of books, because last year I think I'd read an extra book, whereas this year I might just hit my goal, whereas I do like to try just get one over these days. So I've got Solo Leveling Volume 4. I do believe I mentioned Solo Leveling Volume 2 and 3 earlier in the video. I think I say 1 and 2, but we'll not talk about that. I love Solo Leveling. I feel like I'm miles behind, but I just keep buying these in chunks when I have an opportunity. I've also got Monster Volume 5. That's the wrong way round. I'll try again. We've also got Monster Volume 5. We are following a gentleman. He was a surgeon. He has kind of been disgraced, having made a choice between saving the mayor of a town and saving a young boy. And then since then, some weird things have kind of started happening that have led to like different people getting murdered across different cities and towns and areas. And he's kind of on this mission to find out who's doing it. That's another one that I could put on my list of just in case I can't get finished this year. I've also got Monstrous Volume 9. I'm still enjoying this. I love the art style of this. Every time there's a new one, I just kind of pick it up. So I could pick this up just to kind of cover me for the next year. I've also then got Full Metal Alchemist Volume 10. This is where I'm up to with my Full Metal reads. This is about following these two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, who are trying to find the Philosopher's Stone and find a way to get their bodies back. Essentially, they've done something that they shouldn't have done. Alphonse is now in a suit of armour and Ed has a metal leg and a metal arm. And it is a really good story. I've watched the anime, the Brotherhood anime, which is the remake of this, and I really, really love this. So those are my 2025 reads. I appreciate that there might have been a bit of a switch around in terms of lighting setup. Obviously, we've got Christmas decks versus non-Christmas decks in this video. I'm not gonna lie. The irony of some of the comments I make in the previous video about editing taking ages, I might put these as bloopers at the end, just for the giggles. If it's not too long, I might just shove some bloopers at the end. So if you want to catch those, they'll come at the end for you. But yeah, those are my 2025 reads. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the reads as well in the comments. That'll be great. What are your 2026 goals? Oh, we're on 2026 already. Oh my God. If you've got any comments about the books, I would love to hear them down below. If you've got any book recommendations, I would also love that. Try to leave any comments spoiler free if you can. That'll be great. Thank you for sticking around a little bit longer, and thank you for tolerating the change of scenery. Hopefully one of my 2026 goals would be to do better at this filming, editing and posting scenario, because at the minute a lot of what I end up doing is making the videos, having a good time. They sit in editing for ages and then I just kind of flop with the editing. What I'll do is I'll see how 2026 rolls around. It could be a New Year's resolution. We could try it. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully your 2025 reads have gone well as well, and you look forward to making your next 2026 reads selection, making your lists, your TBRs and whatever it is, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. So the next books of 2023, yikes, okay, I'm doing them together. Why I hate myself. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this book. 5.5 stars. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't that good. How can you highly recommend when you've only read the one book, Shelley? What you doing? So this, I haven't told you anything about the other books. Balls. Bollocks. Have I been doing star ratings? Is this why I cocked up on the other ones? Did I not do star ratings? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I won't do reads. Maybe I'll just put them on the screen, because I feel that I could do that. I could put things on screens. I'm filming myself still. I haven't stopped the video. So my next book is Haunting on Hill House. In Hill House, of Hill House. It's the Ovs. It's Ovs. So my next book is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Hill. Why do I do this to myself? By Dot Hutchinson. I think that's the name. Wow. You're there. I can't even check. Hopefully one of my 2020 goals. So my next read is Graveyard Shift. There's going to be so many bloopers at the end of this one.